You're here now. Not in the moment you left your bed, not curled under the blanket, but somewhere else entirely. There's no notification sound, no LED glow, no next episode starting in countdown. Just the wind dry and thin, curling across the eastern reaches of the Persian Plateau. It tastes like chalk and copper. You blink slowly. Dust glints in the light. Welcome to Nishapur. Mecca, the city greets you not with a roar, but a hum. A quiet, effortless harmony. Silk rustling behind shop stalls. The clink of bronze cups being stacked in a tea house. A donkey snorts beside a fruit cart. Pigeons flutter from dome to dome. The street beneath your feet is warm. Polished smooth by years of soft leather slippers, muddy boots, and the occasional hurried hoofbeat. Your sandals tap with a rhythm almost like a heartbeat you didn't know you had. So tonight, let me softly tell you the story of a place that shined so brightly. The world looked away just before it burned. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake, drop your city and your local time in the comments. I always love knowing where you're drifting off from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk deeper into the Bazaar of Nishapur. One of the oldest in the world, spices rise in warm swirls, turmeric, saffron, cinnamon bark cracked open. A merchant haggles over lapis lazuli, brought in from Badakhshan. A boy barely tall enough to see over the jars offers you honey-soaked dates. Nishapur isn't just alive, it's self-assured. This city has stood for 1,000 years, give or take a few. The caliphs came and went. Earthquakes shook it to the roots. But Nishapur always rebuilt, stronger, shinier, smarter. It's the kind of place where you could vanish for a few weeks into poetry and not be missed. Here, Omar Khayyam once wrote beneath apricot trees, "You know thee a jug of wine, a loaf of bread, and thou guy." Yeah, that guy. He used to wander these alleys with ink-stained sleeves and way too many opinions about stars. Historians still argue whether he actually lived here full-time or just passed through like every other wandering genius. But the city claims him, and you can feel why. Nishapur is intoxicating, but not in a loud capital city way. No marble arrogance, no echo of imperial boots, just confidence, old money, clean streets, a perfect city for people who believe they're far away from danger, which of course they're not. You pass a wall with fresh mosaics, blue and white geometric tiled to perfection. A new mosque dome gleams above it like a promise. Someone's whistling nearby. The melody is simple, but it catches in your chest like a loose thread. You glance behind you. Nothing. But still your shoulders stiffen, because it's 2021. And while you're watching this city gleam, someone else is watching it rot. They are far away for now, across desert and river, through cold wind and sandstorms. But they are coming, one hoofbeat at a time. A force that does not conquer to rule. A force that does not even conquer to extract. They come to key race. No, you round a corner into a courtyard. Someone's hanging laundry, soft green cotton, a child's tunic. A woman adjusts a pomegranate basket. She doesn't notice you. Or maybe she does, but thinks you're just another traveler. You are, and not. Because tonight, you're the one who remembers even after the city stops breathing. Let's zoom out for a moment. Geographically, Nishapur is a jewel on the Silk Road, Mecca, positioned in Khorasan, northeastern Iran. At this moment in history, It's part of the Khwarezmian Empire. You know, the one that thought it could ignore Genghis Khan's politely terrifying trade mission, kill his envoys, and still have a future. Yeah, that empire. Politically, things are unstable. But Nishapur doesn't feel it yet. Cities like this always think they'll be spared. They have scholars, they have grain reserves, they have tall walls. But what they don't have is forgiveness. You turn down an alley where a blacksmith is hammering. Sparks fly like fireflies. He's focused, serene. No war here, just steel and rhythm. He doesn't know what's coming, and neither do you. Mat, except you do. You're here from the future, from the comfort of duvet covers and sleep timers and soundscapes. You're here to witness what can't be undone. And as you pass through the quiet brilliance of Nishapur, something inside you flinches. Because beauty like this, it never survives contact with rage. Not this time. Not when Hunt Tokachura dies. But we're not there yet. More, so breathe in. Feel the dust again, now tinged with something iron-like. A city like this doesn't get destroyed by accident. No. This is personal. And once you meet the man whose death lights the match, you'll understand why the fire doesn't stop until everyone is gone. The sun never actually sets in Nishapur. Not yet. It lingers stretched like warm silk over rooftops and minarets, casting long shadows that feel more decorative than threatening. But tonight, those shadows creep a little longer. They cling a little tighter, like they know something no one else does, and you walk with them listening, because soon, even the sun will look away. You don't meet Tokachar right away? At first, you hear about him. In whispers and tales and arguments between tea sellers and caravan guards who swear they knew him personally. Of course, none of them did. But in Nishapur, stories spread faster than camels. He's spoken of like a riddle. Mak, the Khan gave him his daughter. That means he's more than blood. He was born on a comet night. That's what they say. No, he just knew how to smile in front of Genghis. You turn a corner and pass a shaded archway where two soldiers are playing a dice game on the floor. They roll laugh curse softly in Turkic. One of them makes a half joke about how Tokachar could sneeze and still get more respect than the entire Khwarezmian army. There's some truth in that. No, Tokachar is a Mongol prince. Yes, but not by birth. He married Genghis Khan's favorite daughter, making him son-in-law to the most terrifying man on the continent, and perhaps the most devoted. In the Mongol world, family is armor. But being family to Genghis is like being a candle in a dragon's mouth. Either you're protected, or you're the first thing to burn. Tokachar isn't loud. He's not brutal. He's not like the other generals. He prefers maps to horses. He once wrote a poem. A Mongol who writes poems. That should have been a clue. But the city didn't notice. You sit under a fig tree with a traveling merchant who saw Tokachar once. Handsome, no polite. Yes, smiled like he already forgave you for disappointing him. He led a detachment westward part of the force that was pursuing the Khwarezmian resistance. And like many Mongol campaigns, it moved fast. Lightning raids, perfect coordination. The kind of efficiency that makes cities like Nishapur think they won't stop here. They'll keep going. They won't. When Tokachar reaches Nishapur's outskirts, he doesn't arrive with trumpets or howls. No fire, no banners, just a wall of dust and silence. You stand on the battlements now looking down. He's there far below, a small figure on a large horse, cloak snapping in the wind. He raises a hand not to threaten, but to pause. And that's the thing about Mongol warfare. They always offer a deal first. Submit. Open the gates. Pay pay tribute, live, refuse, and, well, you already know where this story is going. No, the governor of Nishapur, whose name historians still debate. Some say Tahir, others suggest he was a military appointee from the Khwarezmian Sultan, decides to resist. Some say he believes his city walls are strong enough. Others say he thinks Tokchar is just a son-in-law, not the main force. Or perhaps he simply fears the Sultan more than the Khan. Mistake, big one. Tokchar's detachment sets up camp, and for a few days everything stays still. You walk through markets that operate nervously. You pass scribes who write letters with shaking hands. Even the cats in the alley seem quieter. One morning, just after dawn, you hear it. A shout, a horn, then silence, then thunder. The Mongols begin their siege. It's swift, precise. You hear the clatter of ladders, the hiss of arrows slicing wind, the rattle of fire pots being launched. But it's not chaos. It's rhythm. No, like a machine doing what it was designed to do. Tokchar leads from the center, calm, focused. His helmet reflects the morning light. You watch him issue orders with quiet gestures. A nod, a finger point, no wasted words. At this moment, you think he might just take the city intact. The defenders are already wavering. People scream below. The gates are weakening. Victory is close. And then a single moment. A hiss, a blur, a thud, and Tokchar slumps sideways in his saddle. No, you don't hear the scream. Because there isn't one. Just a strange pause. His horse keeps trotting a few steps before someone notices. Then chaos. Soldiers surge forward to grab him. Archers go berserk. And the rumor travels faster than any messenger bird. Tokchar is dead. You feel it in the air, a pressure shift. Like the moment before thunder cracks. Because Genghis Khan doesn't lose family. And he never forgives anyone who makes him bleed. No, the arrow came from the ramparts. Maybe a lucky shot. Maybe fate. Maybe someone took a gamble too far. Historians still argue whether the kill was random or deliberate, whether it was a defender with exceptional aim or a reckless act that doomed 200,000 souls. Some say the shooter was executed by his own commander for provoking the inevitable. Others say he was celebrated. You just stand there watching blood drip from Tokchar's boot into the dirt, and you understand. This city isn't going to fall anymore. It's going to disappear. The wind changes. You feel it immediately, even before the soldiers do. Even before the horses rear and the siege towers freeze in place. It's not a weather wind, it's something else. A shift in intent. You know how air feels just before lightning hits the ground? That moment where even birds forget how to fly. This is that, but worse. Because now the Mongols are no longer interested in winning. They're here to unmake. You stand at the edge of the Mongol camp as the sun bleeds downward. Every soldier you see is silent now. No laughter, no fireside gambling, no sharpening of spears. Just waiting. No one tells them what comes next. They already know. Genghis Khan is still hundreds of miles away, but his rage travels faster than any army. He doesn't have to shout. His orders arrive like gravity, wordless, irresistible, final. And those orders, they've changed. Before the mission was tactical. Take Nishapur, secure the province, push west. Now it's personal. Genghis Khan has declared vengeance, not retribution, not justice. Vengeance. The pure fire-eyed kind. The kind that doesn't draw maps or issue surrender terms. You're told the message is simple. Leave none alive. Not man, not woman, not child, not dog. You glance at the messenger who delivers it. His lips don't tremble. His eyes don't move. He's not reciting a military command. He's describing a funeral. Back inside Nishapur, the mood turns fast. You walk past prayer halls now filled with trembling whispers. The mosque smells like fear, not sweat. Fear. It has a texture, a weight. The muezzin calls to the sky, but even the birds don't answer anymore. You overhear men arguing in a courtyard. We should have opened the gates. It's too late. We should fight to the last. We'll all be last. No one says Tokchar's name, but they all know it. The siege resumes not with strategy, but with fury. Mongol siege engines hammer the walls not for breach, but for obliteration. You feel the ground ripple with every strike. Stones loosen. Towers collapse, not with a groan, but with a snap like bone under pressure. You stand behind a corner as flames burst through the northern quarter. One building, then three, then the sky. You think, is this how the stars die? You think, where does a city go when it disappears? By the third day, the outer walls are gone. The inner defenses are charred husks. Bodies pile faster than prayers, and yet some citizens still try to hope. You pass a woman cradling her child in the shadow of a collapsing minaret. She hums a lullaby made of denial. You pass a baker still kneading dough with trembling hands, flour sticking to his sweat. You pass a boy counting arrows in the dirt like they're coins. Hope doesn't die quickly, but it burns well. One of the Mongol captains, Subutai, yes, that Subutai pauses near a ruined gate. You notice his expression, not joy, not cruelty, not pride, just emptiness. You wonder if he sees the same things you do. Probably not. He's thinking of the next street to clear. You're thinking of ROM44. What's left to remember? You duck into a schoolhouse where books lie torn pages flapping like wings. A chalkboard is cracked. The smell of burnt parchment fills your lungs. You step over a toy left mid-game, a spinning top. Still, no screams here, just the creak of wood and the pop of fire as it eats its way across childhood. Then, outside, the Mongols advance with machine precision. No looting, no mercy. You see them drag entire families from homes and stack them like sandbags to block alleys. You want to look away, but you're here to remember, aren't you? So you keep watching. A scholar stumbles through the rubble robes torn, holding what might be a Quran, or maybe a treatise on astronomy. He clutches it like it breathes. Two soldiers confront him. You hope they spare him. You hope they don't. But you never learn what the book was about. Dhikr. They say the massacre lasts 3 days. Others say it was 4. Some say it never really ended. Historians still argue whether the number killed was 100,000, 200,000, or more. No one agrees. Because who counts? Dust. You glance around. What's left of Nishapur isn't conquered. It's quiet. But not peaceful. Like the world has held its breath and decided never to exhale again. Though, you take one last walk through a market street. Now nothing but scorched pillars and bone. A child's shoe lies beside a helmet. A half-melted coin glints in the soot. A burnt book spine curls into ash. You stand still. This was once a city. Now it's a lesson, a whisper, a warning, a wound. And it's far from over. You tread slowly now deeper into what used to be a city. Not carefully, there's no one left to hear your footsteps, but reverently. Because every cracked stone, every broken door frame, every smoke-curled beam, still warm. Like the memory of a fever, you're walking through? A silence that didn't used to be here. You arrive at what remains of the city wall. Or maybe it's just a suggestion of where the wall once was. You see rubble, scorch marks, bones that don't belong to animals. A soldier's helmet, too small for the body it's near. The Mongols breached here? Probably not because it was a weakness in the structure, but because it was symbolic. They could have gone around, could have waited. But why wait when what you want is not surrender, but submission after death? And now, Nishapur lies exposed, like a peeled fruit. No more defenses, no more gates, no more choices. You climb over a cart, turn to charcoal, and step onto the remains of a once beautiful boulevard. You can still see where the tiles used to be faint outlines of geometric patterns, their colors stolen by fire. The street curves gently toward what might have been a garden once. Maybe. It's hard to tell when everything is this colorless. There were walls that held, but now you're walking past the people who didn't. You stop near a collapsed doorway where someone has drawn a symbol in ash. A plea, a prayer. Maybe just a final curse. Inside, the ceiling has fallen in. A child's ball peeks out from under it, perfectly round in a city where nothing else is. It makes you sick in a way you don't know how to describe. You sit on a block of shattered limestone for a moment, just to breathe. Even the air is different now. It no longer smells like bread or copper or turmeric. It smells like finality. You turn your head sharply. Was that a voice? No. Just a flap of torn fabric in the wind? It always tricks you like that. There are no voices left. No. In the center of the city, where the mosque used to be, the stones are blackened and cracked. You walk into the main hall, or what's left of it. The pillars have melted in places, not crumbled. Melted. A few of the decorative calligraphy panels still cling to the far wall barely. You can make out one phrase. He who destroys a life, it is as if he has destroyed all of mankind. The irony isn't funny, but your brain tries to laugh anyway, maybe as a defense mechanism. You hear boots, but no marching, just a single pair. A Mongol soldier stands at the mosque entrance. He doesn't move, doesn't blink. His armor is dark, crusted with soot and gore. He looks at the room, not at you. For a moment, you both just exist together inside this collapsed prayer. He turns and walks away. You don't follow. No. Eventually, you reach a wide open square. There's no shape to it anymore, just open space, ringed by broken buildings and leaning facades. You know from earlier glimpses that this was once Nishapur's center of trade. Now it looks like a battlefield, no worse, a mighty grave without names. You find the remains of a shop, and inside a coin mold still resting on the counter. Whoever worked here must have thought he had time. Time to hide, time to flee, time to finish just one more cast. Spoiler, he didn't. And then you see the gate, or rather what's left of it, the western gate of Nishapur. Once the city's proudest arch, embossed with tile work so delicate, even the sun stopped to admire it. It's now a pile of smoldering regrets, a heap of history that forgot how to defend itself. This was the last way out. You look to the horizon and imagine what people saw when they tried to run. Did they make it? Did they reach the next town? Were they caught in the fields, halfway between hope and memory? Historians still argue whether anyone escaped. Some accounts claim a handful of survivors were taken as slaves. Others say no one was spared. The records blur, contradict, fall silent, just like the city itself. You stand still long enough that the ash begins to settle around your ankles. And that's when you notice a noise. Not speech, not movement. A kind of vibration. Faint, like the city exhaling its last breath. Or maybe it's you, Nabri. A pack of Mongol archers ride past, slow and deliberate, checking corners. One of them tosses something into a fire pit. You don't want to know what it was. Another rides with a flag impaled with broken scroll rods. You wonder, do they even know what they're burning? Do they care? Probably not. That's the point. You don't erase knowledge with fire because you understand it. You erase it because you fear it will outlive you. Later, as the light fades and the embers cool, you walk past a well. It's filled with helmets. You don't ask why. Some questions only echo. You begin to understand now this wasn't just a siege. This was a ritual, Mercure, the inverse of civilization, a deliberate undoing of everything that made Nishapur a city. Culture, language, family, trade, art, faith, all of it peeled away, one flaming layer at a time. As night finally arrives and you hadn't realized how long the day had dragged you reach a final street. It's quiet here even compared to the rest. There are no corpses, no fire, just a line of shoes neatly arranged as if everyone had taken them off to enter a house that no longer exists. You look up, no stars tonight. Even the sky doesn't want to look at this. By now you walk like someone who doesn't expect to return. Step by step, slow and heavy, like your feet have absorbed the weight of what they've seen. You don't flinch anymore. You don't pause at rubble or bones, or walls smeared with handprints. You've stopped reacting. That's how you know the transformation is nearly complete. Not of the city, of you. But tonight something flickers behind your ribs, because here, amid smoke and ruin, you feel something strange. A shift, a chill, a story waiting to happen. You pass the western quarter and descend into a sunken neighborhood, a place once lined with small homes, clay brick schools and spice cellars. And here, under a collapsed wooden arch, you find it the spot where Tokuchar fell. There's no plaque, no inscription, no polished stone marking the moment. Just the memory of a body that struck the earth so hard it broke the future. You crouch. Dust clings to your fingers. It's quiet, still, sacred in a twisted kind of way. A single feather lies nearby. You don't know why that breaks you more than anything else. The Mongol camp just beyond the city walls breathes differently now. The fires are smaller. The shouting has faded. There are no more orders to give. No more buildings to burn. What's left is clean up, if one can call it that. Final sweeps. Quiet executions. A city has been reduced to a check mark. And then, someone rides in. You see him from a distance first. Not armored, not carrying a blade. This rider glides through the camp like the wind himself made room. He's thin, wrapped in layers of silk, dust-stained robes, and he does not dismount. He is Koal Messenger, and the message, it's not new orders, it's a reaction. It's the sound of a father hearing about the death of his son-in-law. Boo. You're told later in whispers by other survivors or captives or scribes who escaped and somehow lived long enough to write that Genghis Khan wept, that he tore open his shirt, that he stood still for hours, that he spoke no words for an entire day. Historians still debate whether that's true. Some say the Khan had no use for mourning. Others say that Tokuchar, of all his sons-in-law, was the one he loved most. But what isn't debated is what he did next. He amplified the order. Nishapur was already dying. Now it was to be erased completely. No. Every trace, Every echo, every person building record relic, even the dead would not be left alone. You're back inside the city when the second wave begins. This isn't a battle. It's not even a massacre. It's a purge. Mongol soldiers move methodically through ruins, burning what didn't burn the first time, slaughtering anyone they missed. But not just people now, or keep possibility. They tear apart looms, shatter water wheels, smash musical instruments. Books, even those already singed, are thrown into what was once the public fountain. The air's thicker now, not just with smoke, but with intention. They don't just want to kill the city. They want to unwrite it. IBQ, Mekir. You duck into a side alley and see something odd. 3 men kneeling in the dirt. One is a craftsman. One wears the robe of a merchant. The third, a monk perhaps. They are drawing something, not with chalk or paint, with sticks in the ash. A city. They're redrawing Nishapur. You kneel beside them. They don't speak. They don't look up. They trace walls, towers, gardens, streets. Their hands tremble, but they don't stop. And you understand this is resistance. The last kind left. Not swords, not speeches. Memory. But then footsteps. The 3 men scatter like birds. You remain still, because you've already become a shadow. You're no longer part of their world. Yao. You pass a bathhouse, or what's left of one. Marble tiles cracked in a perfect circle. You almost laugh. It looks like a broken halo. There's a figure slumped inside a woman. You don't approach. You don't need to. The way her hair floats in the still water tells you everything. You keep moving. A forge, a mint, a school. Each building now reduced not just to ruins, but to denials. As though they were never here. As if the fire could trick time into forgetting. You reach what was once a music hall. Its wooden beams are black ribbons now. A stringed instrument lies in the center, snapped in half. One string is still attached, quivering slightly in the draft. For a moment, it hums a note. It sounds like grief. You pause at the edge of what might have been the scholars' quarter. A few walls still stand somehow. One has been marked with words, scratched hastily in soot. Remember the garden. That's all it says. Nothing else. No name. No plea. Just memory. You don't know which garden. You don't know whose hand wrote it. But the command sinks into your chest like an arrow tip. You will remember the garden. In the final moments of the purge, you see a boy, a real one, barefoot, stumbling across shattered stone. He carries something. A bowl. A book. No, a rock, shaped like a heart. He clutches it like it's the last true thing in the world. You watch him vanish between 2 fallen columns. You never see him again. The purge lasts the rest of the day. Some say 3 more, maybe 5. No one really knows, because no one's left in that measure Alf time. And then one night, it stops. The camp goes quiet. Torches are doused. Horses are saddled. Orders whispered. Packs loaded. The Mongols ride out not in triumph, not in celebration, but in stillness. You'd expect a roar, a banner, a declaration, but there's nothing. Because what's the point of boasting to ash? Or you walk behind them for a moment, just watching the trail they leave. It isn't smoke anymore, or blood, or dust. It's absence. No, you don't know what to do with silence anymore. You try listening for birds. There are none. You strain for wind chimes, for laughter, for even the nervous cough of a stray cat in an alley. But Nishapur is quiet now in a way that doesn't sound like sleep. It sounds like surrender. And that's what's most unsettling. Not the ruins. Not the smoke still curling upward in places like forgotten prayers. But the knowledge that There's no one left to pray. You sit on the edge of a dried-up fountain. The stone rim is warm beneath you, like a ghost of the sun. You run your fingers along its cracked surface, tracing shapes that used to be fish or flowers or waves. This is where children once splashed, where old men gossiped, where merchants filled jugs before arguing over silk prices. Now the only thing floating in the basin is a single sandal, small, pink. You don't touch it. It's time to admit something. What happened here wasn't strategy. It wasn't military genius. It wasn't even about fear. It was rage. The kind that doesn't come from conquest, but from grief, sharpened into an order. When Genghis Khan heard of Tokachar's death, he didn't just send troops. He didn't just escalate the campaign. He made a decision, a personal one. He ordered the eradication of Nishapur. And not just the people, not just the homes, not just the artifacts, but the very idea of the city. He wanted Nishapur to not have existed. You look around again, and it's working. Everywhere you walk, identity collapses. The markets don't smell like cardamom anymore. The scholars' quarter doesn't echo with poetry. Even the shadows are wrong. You walk through spaces that no longer remember themselves. Word spreads slowly, unevenly. In distant towns, in desert trading posts, in highland fortresses. Travelers bring rumors and cracked voices. The city is gone, not conquered. Gone. There are no survivors. They say the river turned red. They say the ground cries when it rains. Some merchants dismiss it. Overblown, they mutter. A cautionary tale. Others lower their heads and whisper names they'll never speak again. But no one rides to confirm. No one sends envoys. Because what would be the point? You don't visit a grave that's still burning. Back at the ruins, Mongol soldiers finish their final tasks. You follow one group, not because you want to, but because you need to see what happens after the purge. They're not killing anymore. That's done. Now they're sorting. And some bodies are being collected, maybe for counting, or perhaps just to make room. You watch them dump them into massive pits. Some are burned. Some are left exposed. A few are thrown into the river which no longer runs. It just sits here, a pool of still dark water reflecting a sky too ashamed to shine. You pass a soldier lifting a tapestry from the rubble. He stares at it for a long time, its blues and golds dulled by smoke, but still vibrant enough to remember something. You can't see his expression, only that he eventually drops it back into the fire, not because he hated it, but because he wasn't allowed to keep it. That's what vengeance means here. Not even beauty gets to survive. Again, later, in what remains of the central archive, a general walks slowly through rows of broken shelves. He picks up a scroll, opens it, reads a few lines, then sets it down. Another soldier throws it into a brazier. The general doesn't stop him. This isn't ignorance. This is a policy. The Mongols were often known to preserve knowledge. They admired astronomy. They collected translators. They spared engineers and artisans. But not in Nishapur. Not here. Here, rage rewrote the rules. And this is where it turns, isn't it? Because now you understand, this wasn't just a siege. This wasn't a conquest. It was a recalibration of memory. Genghis Khan wanted the world to feel the wound. He wanted the name Nishapur to taste like ash. Not pity, not awe, just nothing. And honestly, he succeeded. No, centuries later, historians still try to piece together the fragments. Was the death toll really $102? $90? Was it exaggerated by chroniclers trying to vilify the Mongols, or perhaps to impress them? Were some citizens spared to tell the story, or did they write it down before they died? Historians still argue, and they should, because history without argument is just obedience. But standing here in the middle of a silence shaped like a city, you realize something terrifying. Numbers don't matter. Not when the grief is this total. Not when every doorframe is a eulogy. Not when the streets can no longer spell their own names. Oh. At the edge of town, near a field of cypress stumps, you find a small stone marker. Someone may be a Mongol who didn't follow orders all the way. Maybe a captive. Maybe no one has etched 3 lines into it. We lived here. We tried. We burned. You run your fingers over the carving. It's the only sentence that hasn't been set on fire. Then slowly you rise and leave it undisturbed. Because the one thing vengeance can never truly destroy, no matter how hard it tries, is the person who remembers. Mermeek. And right now, that's you. You don't walk anymore. You drift. Like the smoke. Like the ghosts. Like a memory trying to remember itself. Every step is slower than the last. Not because you're tired, but because there's the less world left to walk in. Nishapur isn't even ruins now. It's something worse. Emptiness with structure. Streets without life. Shadows without bodies. Language without a mouth to speak it. You pass under the arch of what used to be the Eastern Gate. Its keystone still hangs somehow despite having lost both sides of its foundation. It floats there, a stone eyelash defying physics in the same way I'll hope sometimes does. On the far side, you see something new. Not life, not exactly, but something trying to pretend it's still allowed. No, a woman. She walks alone, her dress soot-stained arms full of kindling. No soldiers nearby. No sounds of combat. Just the crunch of ash underfoot. You follow quietly. She's not trying to escape. She's not hiding. She's doing something specific with purpose. Eventually, she stops in front of a small stone platform and begins to arrange the wood. At first, you think it's a cooking fire, but then she pulls out a small bundle wrapped in cloth. You know what it is. She lights the fire anyway. You turn away. Because this grief isn't yours. It was never yours. And yet, you carry it. The Mongols are nearly finished. You can tell by the way they move. There's less searching, less shouting. Their pace has shifted from "on destroy" to "now we depart." But not everyone is done yet. You pass a group of soldiers digging a long trench. Not for fortification. For storage. Bodies, limbs, heads, burnt torsos. They throw them in without counting. Just discard. The way a butcher might sweep bones off a table. At one point, you see a child's arm still holding a toy, a tiny carved elephant. The soldier pulling it free hesitates, just for a blink, then tosses it in. The elephant bounces, then vanishes. So does your stomach. But it doesn't stop, because you hear laughter, real laughter, Mongol laughter. Not loud or cruel, but casual. 2 men tossing coins, another balancing a helmet on his head like a joke, another whistling a tune with no words. It's over, and this is what victory looks like. When there's nothing left to fight. You make your way back to the center of what was once the city. You pause outside a domed structure with no dome. The pillars stand like broken teeth. This was probably a university, or a madrasa, maybe both. Inside you find them, books, hundreds of them. Most are burned, some are torn. A few by some miracle remain intact. You pick one up, the binding creaks. It smells like death and ink and regret. The page reads, To know the stars is to know oneself. It's in Persian. Calligraphy so beautiful, you almost forget to breathe. You open the next page, it's blank, charred at the edges. Then footsteps. You hide behind a column, instinct taking over. 2 Mongol soldiers enter. They don't speak. They each pick up a stack of books, carry them to the center of the room, and drop them in a heap. A third walks in with a torch. They set the heap on fire. You stay silent. No. The flames rise quickly. Books are dry things. They don't fight back. They burn eagerly, like they were waiting for it. The fire reflects in your eyes, but not in your heart. Because you know something now, even if this building collapses, even if this book turns to smoke, even if no one ever rebuilds this city. You read the sentence? And that means it still exists. Outside, the wind picks up. Not a storm, just a long, dry exhale. You follow the sound, and what you find is not horror. Not exactly. It's boredom. The Mongols are idle now, sitting in the shells of homes, leaning against scorched walls, eating quietly, playing dice with bones. They've done what they were told. The fire is out. The blood has cooled. And now they wait. For what orders? Sleep. The next town. Erasure, it seems, is exhausting. You sit beside a cracked fountain. This one holds no water, just sand and a single dead fish. You don't even ask how it got there. And here's the cruel part, you begin to see beauty again. Not the grand kind. Not domes or mosaics or the way silk moves in sunlight. No, you see the kind of beauty that lives after. Noi, a vine still clinging to a broken wall. The shape of a shattered window casting a crescent on the ground. A pair of pigeons nesting in the rubble of a minaret. Some things refuse to learn that they're supposed to be gone. No, you follow the pigeons as they take flight. They lead you up a winding street, past what once may have been a physician's home. Tools still rest on a table. Tongs herbs, a mortar filled with dust. You wonder who he tried to save. You wonder how many. You wonder if he ever tried to save himself. At the top of the hill, the city opens before you. Or what's left of it. The sun is setting again. This time, it doesn't linger. It drops fast like it's had enough of watching. Below you, Nishapur is a smoldering scar, and for a moment, you wish you hadn't come. You wish you could forget all of it. The names, the sounds, the sandals, the elephants, the poems, the child's hand. But you can't, because someone has to remember. And tonight, that someone is Ryupsi. You descend from the hill slowly, as if afraid your feet might echo too loudly in a place where echoes have been outlawed. Beneath you, Nishapur lies hushed, still smoldering in places. But it's not just the fires that linger. It's the absence, the unmistakable density of what's missing. And somehow, amid all this emptiness, you find people. 3 of them, not soldiers, not scavengers, not even survivors in the usual sense. They're just here. You first spot them in the half-collapse of what was likely a bakery. The roof is gone. The oven is cold. The walls are scorched. And yet here they are. The smith and hammerless now sits cross-legged against a burnt beam. His hands are stained black with soot. Not from work, but from burying his son, the body too small to burn properly. He stares at nothing lips, moving in a prayer you can't quite catch. The scholar. Hair-matted fingers, ink-scarred clutches, a half-charred scroll. He smooths it repeatedly, like he's still copying it. He whispers names, perhaps of books or authors, or maybe just of the friends who used to quote them. The sound is rhythm, not reason. And then there's the baby, or what's left of her. Not a corpse, but something stranger. Something almost mythic. She lies in the scholar's lap, asleep or unconscious, it's hard to tell. A bundle wrapped in a woman's scarf. No blood, no burns, just dirt and tiny breaths. Impossible. You wonder if she's real at all, or if the men are pretending she is, because pretending is softer than madness. Nah. You crouch near the ruined doorway and watch them. They don't see you. Or if they do, they don't care. There's no conversation between them. Just presence. That's all they can manage now. And honestly, it's enough. You realize what you're witnessing isn't survival, it's stubbornness. The smith stands first, walks without direction, or maybe with every direction. He picks up a length of cracked wood, probably once a beam, and begins to sweep the ground, not to clean. There's no point, but the motion feels useful. The scholar perhaps in response rises too. He doesn't let go of the scroll. He tucks it into his robe like a talisman. And the baby, she doesn't cry. Babies always cry, but not here, not in Nishapur. No. You trail them quietly as they shuffle through what used to be a side street. They stop in front of a heap of broken tiles and blackened beams. A fountain used to stand here, decorated with peacocks made of lapis and gold. You know this because a shard remains barely recognizable, glinting blue against the ash. The smith kneels and begins clearing debris with his bare hands. The scholar joins him more cautiously. They don't speak, but it's clear they're building something else, or trying. You want to ask them why. Why rebuild in a place that no longer wants to exist? Why protect a child who may never remember her name? Why carry a book when there's no one left to read? But you don't ask, because you already know. Because sometimes the act of resistance is absurd and necessary and sacred. As they work, the sun fades completely, and the city shifts again visibly this time. From a wound to a scar, the difference is subtle, but you feel it. A wound bleeds. A scar waits. No, you move on, leaving them behind, not because they're unimportant, but because they are the most important. And some things you carry with you, rather than explain. Further into the remains of the city, you find a library, or rather its foundation. The roof is gone. The walls are cracked. Their shelves just skeletal frames leaning like drunk men. But in one corner, you see something remarkable. A pile of saved books, stacked carefully, each one protected by cloth pots, even bits of armor. Someone, perhaps many, someone's tried to preserve them. You kneel beside them, brushing soot off a title. On the circles of heaven and the fall of light, you smile, not because it's funny, but because you're glad it still exists, even just for now. And then a sound. Footsteps. You freeze. But it's not soldiers. It's not looters. It's a boy, our barefoot Hairwild, maybe 11. He carries a clay jug with a cracked handle. It sloshes as he walks. He doesn't see you. He heads straight for the pile of books. He sits. He opens one, and he begins to read aloud. The voice is thin, wobbly. Not every word lands. Some he skips, others he invents. But the rhythm is there. The cadence. It is unquestionably a story. And you realize something sharp and beautiful. The city isn't gone. Not if stories are still being read. Not if anyone still wants to know what the stars once meant. No. You sit quietly, eyes closed, letting the words wash over you. You don't need to understand the story to know that it matters. That it's keeping something alive, maybe even you. When he finishes, the boy doesn't leave. He curls beside the stack of books and sleeps. The jug tips over. Water darkens the ash. It seeps into the floor and vanishes. But the words stay. They always do. Outside, night wraps itself around Nishapur. The wind softens. The silence no longer feels sharp. It's not peace, not yet, but it's something close to rest. And in a city where rest once meant death, that feels like rebellion. Oh, what? There's a part of you that's been trying to resist this whole time, trying not to feel too much, trying to stay detached. But as you step into what remains of the house of learning, that part of you quietly folds its arms, sighs, and walks away. Because this is where the soul of Nishapur once pulsed the loudest. And now it's whispering its last. You enter through what used to be a grand archway. The top half has collapsed, but the inscription over the door remains chipped but legible. That's knowledge is the lantern that reveals the night. You glance upward. The night here doesn't need a lantern. It has already revealed itself too clearly. Though inside the walls are scorched, but you can still see the outlines of shelves, the places where rows of books once stood like disciplined soldiers. The floor is coated in ash, so thick it muffles your footsteps completely. And in the middle of it all, you find him. Not an old man, a scribe maybe, or a scholar, or a librarian. He's seated on the floor cross-legged in what used to be the calligraphy room. Around him are scrolls, some intact, others half-burnt. He's writing, still, with a reed pen dipped in a cracked inkpot, scratching line after line onto the back of a charred parchment. You don't approach, not yet. You stand at a distance, listening to the sound. Scratch, pause, dip, scratch. And you realize he's not preserving knowledge. He's recording what happened. Oh. You sit silently against a fallen column watching him work. His hands shake, but his posture is proud, upright. He's dressed in what might have once been ceremonial robes, now ash-colored and torn at the hem. His face is hollowed by grief, but lit by something stronger, resolve. Every few lines he stops and closes his eyes. Maybe to remember, maybe to survive. Then he keeps going. You catch fragments. The dome fell at dawn. He held the door until the heat took him. The scroll of astronomy too heavy to carry. The child with no name wrapped in verse. And then with a soft, breathy voice, he recites a line aloud. Maybe for you, maybe for himself. What we write is not for the living. It is for those who forget how to forget. Eventually you rise, you step closer. The man doesn't flinch. He glances at you, gives the faintest nod, and returns to his work. He knows you're not here to stop him. You're just another witness, like the walls, like the wind. Behind him there's a pile of scrolls sorted into 3 stacks. Salvaged. Too damaged. Buried already. The categories aren't labeled, but you understand them instantly. You kneel beside the salvaged stack and gently touch one. It crumbles beneath your fingers. Even the best intentions can't outrun entropy. The scholar finishes a line, then another, then one more. Then he sets the pen down. Slowly, he looks at you, truly looks now. His eyes are milky, rimmed with age, but his voice firm. If you're real, take this. He holds out the scroll he was just writing. You hesitate. Take it, he repeats. Someone must. So you do. It's warm from his hands. The ink still drying. The letters flickering in the low light. You don't know what's written on it yet. You don't need to. Because it's not just information. It's inheritance. And then without ceremony, the man lies down beside the scroll piles. He doesn't close his eyes. He just waits. You step out into the night again, scroll in hand. The stars are back now, hesitant at first, like they weren't sure Nishapur would still be here. You want to show them the scroll, You want to tell the sky that someone remembered? No, or you pass a broken wall where a mural once stood. Only fragments remain: a horse's tail, a corner of a minaret, a single calligraphy stroke, so precise, so clean, it looks like it might still be breathing. Next to it, someone has scratched something crude into the plaster. We had books, now we have ash. But ash remembers. As you walk further, you notice strange things. A tea set placed neatly on a ledge untouched. A flute carved into a tree branch, still humming with wind. A doorway with no building behind it, just standing frame to sky like a memory refusing to collapse. Even in ruined Nishapur resists silence. Naughty, you reach what remains of the northern edge. Beyond it, desert. Vast, endless, uncaring, and yet as you stand there with the scroll under your arm, something shifts again. You understand now. This is not a story about death. It never was. It's a story about what refuses to die. Not the walls, not the domes, not even the names, but the act of remembering, of rebuilding, of writing one last sentence, even as the fire licks your feet. You close your eyes. The breeze rustles the parchment. The stars pulse gently above, and you whisper it aloud so it won't vanish. Ash remembers. Maymer, you should leave. That thought's been circling your mind for hours now, maybe longer. There's no shelter here, no water, no reason, and yet you stay. Because somewhere deep inside you, a strange truth has settled like dust on forgotten parchment. You are no longer just passing through Nishapur. You are part of it, and the scroll still rests under your arm. You've stopped reading it, not because it's finished, but because your mind is full, brimming with names and echoes and burned over syllables that feel like they might explode if another one enters. You sit down beneath the hollow frame of a collapsed observatory tower. The stars are clear overhead, cleaner than they have any right to be. And for a moment, you think you hear music, but it's not music. It's chanting. Oh. You rise. You follow the sound not through streets anymore, because streets are for cities. And this is a memory in rubble. You climb over beams and broken bricks, step around shattered pottery and the remains of someone's washing line, and there they are. A small circle, maybe 10 people, maybe fewer, sitting cross-legged in a clearing where a garden once bloomed. They face inward. No fire, no food, just each other. They're reciting, not prayers, not songs, but verses. One voice speaks. In the 3rd month, the apricots fell early. Another follows. My brother stole 2, and mother said nothing. A 3rd. That was the last sweet thing before the sky burned. Then silence. Then more. They come. You realize they're reconstructing her, not buildings. Moments. Each person adds a piece of what was. A scent. A habit. A window shadow. They're putting the city back together. Through memory. One woman describes a cat that used to sleep beneath the butcher's stall. A man remembers how the candlelight would flicker in the bathhouse just before the doors opened. A child barely 5, maybe less, says only, "My mother's song was about rain," and then curls into someone's lap. You stand at the edge of the circle. They don't invite you in. But they don't stop you either. Because in a place where everything else has been taken, the only rule left is, and if you remember, you belong. You sit, you don't speak yet, you just listen. And you feel it, the heaviness begin to change. It's not lighter exactly, but it's shared. At some point, someone begins drawing in the dirt. A map. Not of Nishapur as it is, but as it was. He sketches the river at the southern gate, the marketplace with its spiral of fish stalls. Others join in, correcting him, adding alleys, a garden, a tower, a bench. The child adds a butterfly. No one laughs, because every detail is a defiance. No. You pick up a stick, hesitate, then draw a curved line through a square of space no one's marked yet. A bathhouse. You don't know if it's the right spot. It doesn't matter. You remember it, and that's enough. Time passes, hours, minutes. It doesn't matter. You lose yourself in the cadence of the voices, the shuffle of ash, the weightless restoration of something that should be gone. At some point, a woman hands you a cup. It's cracked. There's barely a sip of water in it, but it tastes like inheritance. Ink? You nod. She nods. No one says thank you. There are no formalities in the ruins. Eventually, the group stands. No signal, no leader, just a shared understanding. This is where tonight's remembering ends. Some walk away. Some sleep in the dust. Some keep drawing. You remain seated and notice something. The map is larger than the clearing now. It spills past the garden, stretches into the alley, and coils up the broken step of a shattered library. It doesn't care about being contained, because memory isn't bigger than walls. And now you feel the shift. You're not mourning anymore. You're preserving, not just for Nishapur, but for every place like it, every city that burned, every village that vanished, every name the wind tried to carry away. Because if you can carry even one detail, one color, one scent, one moment, then something survives. You rise, brush ash from your sleeves, and walk back towards the domeless center. You pass a doorway with no house. You pass the boy with the books, he's still asleep, the scrolls clutched like a pillow. You pass the tile that once held a peacock, and you find your own wall-wee, blank, tall, smooth except for a single crack running through its center. You pull the scroll from beneath your arm, and with the tip of a burned reed, you write something on it. Not your name, not a proverb, not even a prayer. Just 3 words. We were here. Then beneath it smaller, you still are. Moi. And for the first time since you entered this place, your shoulders drop. Your breath deepens. You close your eyes, not in grief, but in witness. Because now you know the secret. Nishapur wasn't destroyed in 1291. Not completely. It dies only when we stop remembering. And you, dear traveler, are very much awake. Morning comes, though it doesn't arrive the way you expect. There's no triumphant sunbeam breaking through clouds. No rooster crowing heroically from a rooftop. No chorus of grateful survivors rising to rebuild. It's more like the city sighs. A long, low breath. The kind that says, we're still here somehow. You blink awake beneath a wall that's no longer casting shadow. Ash sticks to your cheek. Your legs are numb. Your fingers still hold the reed you used to write on the stone. You didn't mean to sleep, but maybe the city allowed it. No. You stretch slowly, listening, and for the first time in Nishapur, you hear something that isn't destruction or grief or eerie silence. You hear a conversation, not loud, not confident, but conversation. Nonetheless, you follow the sound, and you find them. And a group of children, 6 or 7, dusty, barefoot, clothes too large or too small or both. None older than 10. They're sitting on the steps of a collapsed minaret, passing around a clay bowl with a few dates in it. They talk between bites, whispered giggles, eyebrows raised, a game forming out of nothing. One girl stands and declares, "This was my house." She gestures to the wreckage behind them. A boy smirks. "No, it was the Sultan's palace." Another interrupts. It was a dragon's cave, and I'm the guard. And just like that, it's a castle, a fortress, a monster's den, a city reborn in imagination. The game is survival disguised as story. You sit nearby. They notice you, but don't stop. Your furniture now part of the cityscape. One of the silent watchers who doesn't interrupt play. A girl offers you a date. You take it. It tastes like ash and sugar. You chew slowly, trying not to cry, because this is what resurrection looks like. Not fanfare, not speeches, but children pretending again. Oh, one boy climbs the broken minaret. Not far, just enough to see over a wall. He cups his hands and shouts, "The king is coming." The others gasp, scatter, hide behind stones. One grabs a stick like a sword. You almost ask who the king is, but then you realize it's none of them. They're not trying to rule. They're trying to remember how it felt to be small in a world that was big. Oh, and you envy them. Oh. Eventually the game ends the way all games do without ceremony. Just fatigue. Someone sits. Someone else lies down. The king becomes a pebble. The dragon is forgotten. And the kids wander off already, reshaping the next corner of the city into a playground. You stand. The breeze has returned. Gentle, almost curious. You let it pass through your hair, carrying the scent of old spices and new hope. Not further down the alley, you find a merchant's stall. Or rather, the bones of one. A few pots still sit upright. A faded scrap of fabric flutters from a post. You picture the vendor who used to shout, "Prices argue over olives. Throw in extra cloves for good luck." He's gone now, but his scale remains. You lift it. It's heavier than expected. The plates are cracked, but still swing. You hold it in your hands, unsure why you picked it up, until it hits you. This city, its people, its stories, its ghosts. They're not asking to be fixed. They're asking to be measured, to be weighed, to be balanced, to be remembered accurately. You set the scale back down and whisper, "You mattered." No, at the edge of the bazaar, you find a wall of names. Scratched into plaster, burned into wood, carved into stone. Dozens. Hundreds. Some in Persian, some in Arabic. Some just symbols, maybe for the illiterate, maybe for those too rushed to finish. You read them slowly, not aloud, just with your eyes, with your bones, because you feel them now. These weren't statistics. These were people. And this wall isn't a memorial. It's a rebellion against forgetting. Nak. You reach the last name. It's smaller than the rest. And beneath it, someone has added a simple phrase. "I was not famous, but I was loved." There. You sit in front of the wall for a long time. Long enough for the wind to shift. Long enough for a bird to land nearby. Long enough for your heart to say, "Tell them." So you do. You speak the names, one by one. You get most of them wrong. Some stick in your throat. Others feel like they're writing themselves into your skin. But you keep going, because in this moment, you're not just a visitor. You're a witness. You're a night scribe. You're a lantern tea in a city that was told never to shine again. When your voice goes hoarse, you stop. But the silence that follows isn't empty. It's full, thick with presence. You press your hand against the wall, and for the first time since this journey began, you feel warmth. You don't walk the streets anymore. You glide through them. Or maybe it's the streets that move beneath you, shifting like memories trying to rearrange themselves into something bearable. The city is quieter now, not because it's empty, but because you've begun to hear it differently. You pass the remnants of a bathhouse tiles, fractured like a dropped mirror mosaics, flaking into dust. A single column still stands bent at the top, like it bowed too deeply and never rose again. Inside, the scent of old steam still lingers faint as a ghost's sigh. You can almost hear the splash of water, the whisper of gossip, the lazy scrape of a heel across stone. And on the far wall in faded red pigment, you see a single line painted in calligraphy. Cleanliness is close to grace, but grace is closer to mercy. The brushwork is delicate. You want to trace it with your fingers, but you don't. Some things shouldn't be touched, only witnessed. No. You step outside into a courtyard swallowed by weeds. Grass grows through cracks. Ivy creeps across blackened walls. A tree stands in the center, split from fire, but alive. Just barely. And nestled at its base, wrapped in charred cloth, is a tiny bundle. Not a baby. Not food. A book. You kneel. You don't unwrap it fully, just enough to see the cover. It's scorched, but legible. The Garden of Stars and Bones. A storybook. For children, perhaps. Or for grown men who once believed in wishing wells and maps to the moon. You sit beneath the tree and open it. Just one page. The words are broken, some lost to flame. But what remains reads, "Even if the wolves eat the sky and the rivers forget their names, the stars will wait for us." You close the book carefully and place it back, because not every memory wants to travel. Some just want to be left exactly where they died. Nay, you rise and keep moving. Not far, just enough to find something else. And you do. A house. Still standing. Barely. Its door hangs crooked. The windows have no glass. But the roof holds, and inside you find chairs. Intact. Arranged in a circle. They were waiting for someone. You sit. You wait. Eventually, footsteps. A woman enters. Older. Her hands weathered, her eyes clouded, but her movements are firm. She doesn't speak. She just nods and sits across from you. Then a boy. Maybe 10. He carries a lantern that isn't lit. He sits beside her. Then another. A man with a limp. Then a girl with a clay doll. Then someone else. And another. 7 in total. You make 8. Still no one speaks. Until the woman says, "It is time." No one responds. But they all reach into their robes, their pockets, their sleeves, and each of them places something in the center of the circle. A tooth, a coin, a button, a torn ribbon, a key with no lock, a vial of sand, a tiny bell with no clapper, and from you, the reed you used to write on the wall. Together they form a strange kind of shrine, small, quiet, unremarkable to anyone but the people who placed it. You don't ask what it means, because, you know, this isn't worship. It's remembering through ritual, It's how the city holds itself together now. Thread by thread. The boy places the unlit lantern in the center, and then the woman says, "Say their names." No one moves. Then the man with the limp begins. One name, then another, then another. A list, a litany, a threadbare roll call of the gone. You don't know these names, but you speak them anyway, and they speak yours. Not your real one, the one you carry here, the one Nishapur gave you. Mock witness. No, when the last name is spoken, the woman lifts the lantern, still unlit. She doesn't strike a flame. She just holds it aloft, and everyone looks at it. You do too. And in the silence, you realize, sometimes light isn't needed. Sometimes what matters is the act of me offering light, even when there's none left. She sets the lantern down, and just like that, the ritual ends. No farewell, no benediction. Everyone rises, walks away. even you. Yo, outside the wind changes. You stop. Something about it feels different. Like a door creaking open very slowly, somewhere very far away. And on that breeze, faint but certain, you hear something new. Laughter. Not cruel, not mocking. Joyful. Alive. You don't know where it's coming from, but it's real. You smile. Nishapur isn't healed, not even close, but it has shifted. Like a house settling in its foundation after a quake. The cracks are still there, but now, so are the people. And in a place once defined by erasure, that's more than survival. It's reclamation. You've lost track of time, not just hours, but days. Maybe. There's no sun to measure by, no bells, no voices reminding you when to eat, sleep, mourn. The city moves in her cycles of silence and discovery. And so do you. And today you find the well. It's tucked behind what remains of a caravanserai courtyard. The stone wall surrounding it has collapsed inward, and ash chokes the mouth. Still, you feel drawn to it. You lean in, expecting only shadow, but you hear dripping water. Still there. You should be surprised, but you're not. Nishapur has defied expectation in every breath. You lower the old rope. No bucket. Just your hands. The pulley groans like it remembers too much. When the rope returns, it brings a single glass bead. Blue cracked, still glinting. No water, but a story. You hold it in your palm. It's small. Lighter than memory. Yet somehow, it feels heavier than stone. A child's toy. A merchant's trinket. An offering to a forgotten well spirit. You'll never know. But you slip it into your pocket like a relic, because some truths aren't for knowing, just for carrying. Nat. Nearby, carved into the well's rim, you spot a message. If you find this, you're not alone. You smile. Someone else walked these ruins before you. Maybe recently, maybe a century ago, but they left a thread. And you've picked it up. You head north where the city begins to slope upward. The wind thickens with the scent of our spiced dust. Cinnamon, maybe, or cumin left in broken jars. You pass crumbled stairs that lead to nowhere. A doorway with a tree growing through it. A courtyard filled with shoes. Hundreds of them. It stops you. Some pairs are tiny, others adult. Some leather, some straw, some burned, some pristine. All placed neatly side by side, as if waiting to be worn again. You kneel. You don't touch them. You simply look, because you've begun to understand. In Nishapur, even shoes remember. Each one whispers a name, a journey, a final step taken before fire rained from the sky, and no one has moved them. Because to move them would be to say, these feet don't matter, and they did. So you leave them exactly where they are. At the edge of the courtyard, you find a wall painted sky blue. One word remains in gold leaf. Breathe. You do. Slow, shaky, true. Further up the slope, the houses get smaller, tighter, less ornate. The wealthy died first. It seems their homes more obvious, their treasures more tempting. Up here, the poor were hidden in plainness. And so a few walls remain. A few doors still swing. You open one. Inside a kitchen. Collapsed roof. Burned shelves. But the table is set. 2 bowls. 2 spoons. A pitcher cracked in half but still standing. You imagine the people who lived here paused dinner. Maybe for a call to prayer. Maybe for a knock on the door. Maybe for the sound of hooves in the distance, and never returned. You sit at the table. You place your hands on the wood. You don't say a word, because this moment deserves silence. From the window, you see a single flag waving, bright red, not a military banner. not a nation symbol, just a scarf tied to a beam. It flutters in defiance, not allegiance. And for some reason, it makes you cry. No, you walk again, one foot, then the next. The city welcomes you, like it always has, with dust and memory. You pass a mural half covered by ivy, a poem scrawled in blood. I didn't scream, I sang, so the fire wouldn't be lonely. You whisper, I hear you, and the city nods. At dusk, or what you think is dusk, you arrive at the temple ruins. Not grand, not majestic, just sacred, no roof. Half a dome remains like a cracked skull staring at heaven. A few pillars lean, as if whispering secrets to each other. But in the center, untouched by time or blade, stands the prayer stone. Polished smooth, worn by generations of hands, knees, foreheads, and on it a single candle, still burning. You don't ask how. You kneel. You place your palm against the stone. It's warm, not from sun, not from fire, but from the 1,000 prayers buried in its bones. You close your eyes. You don't pray. You listen. And Nishapur speaks, not in words, not in grief, but in presence. Mo, you open your eyes. The candle flickers once, and the wind is quiet, for now. It's night again, or at least it feels like night. The sky is a faded plum, neither starless nor shining. The wind is colder now, not biting, just reminding you. You are not meant to stay forever, and you know that. You've walked this city long enough to hear its rhythms, to understand that Nishapur is not a destination. It's a threshold. You don't live here. You pass through here, like all memories do. You return to where you first arrived. The gate is gone now, swallowed by time and rubble. But you recognize the curve of the road, the way it dips like a memory being carried low. A stone lies near the path. Someone long ago, or maybe just yesterday, has carved a phrase into it with the edge of a blade. If you leave, remember loudly. It's not a warning, it's a command. Mo, you sit near the stone. You set down the scroll. You breathe. And then out of nowhere you hear footsteps. Not many, just one. You turn. A man approaches. Middle-aged. Tall. Wears no robe, no armor, no crown. Just a shawl and dust. But you know him. You've never met. But still you thought, Doam? He nods. It's time. You rise. He gestures toward the ruined skyline. You've seen it? The books? The wells, the names, the fire. You nod. You heard the children laugh. You nod again. Then you know what must be done. He doesn't say it. He doesn't need to. You must carry this with you, not to protect it, not to worship it, but to speak it. He walks with you. You don't ask who he is, but he hums a tune as you walk. Something ancient. A lullaby, maybe, and suddenly all the things you've seen, the bones of the scholar, the whispering prayer stone, the wall of names, they begin to hum with him. You realize he isn't leading you out. He's escorting you through the memory. Like a librarian returning a borrowed book. No, you pass the well again. You stop. You reach into your pocket and remove the bead, the blue one still glinting. You drop it in. It doesn't make a sound. It just vanishes. The man smiles. Offerings are never wasted. You walk on. You pass the house with the 2 bowls. The scarf is still fluttering. You bow your head not as a guest, but as a friend. The children's courtyard is quiet now. Only one shoe remains. You don't touch it, but the man does. He lifts it gently and places it in his satchel. Some memories are too lonely, he says, even here. When you reach the place where the dome once stood, the very center, you stop. The candle on the prayer stone is gone, but something else remains. A circle of footprints, Yours, others, maybe even his. All around it, the ash has been swept away. You kneel. You whisper every name you can remember. You stumble, forget some, replace others. But you try, and the man waits, patient, like this is where what he's always done. When you finish, he places a hand on your shoulder. You've done what few do. You ask finally, "What's that?" You stayed long enough to see, and you realize what he means. Most who pass through ruins do not linger. They take a picture, a trinket, a sigh. But you stayed. You walked. You listened. And now you Harry. The man begins to walk again. You follow him to the edge of the city. There's no gate here. Just a line of stones, a low curve where the walls used to hold back the wild. Beyond it's sand. And stars. He stops. He turns. This is where I leave you. You want to ask where he's going? But you already know. He's not leaving. You are. And he belongs here as much as the scrolls and the names and the ash. Will I come back, you ask? He shrugs. Only if you need to. Then he reaches into his satchel and hands you something. The shoe. You look at it confused. So it won't be alone, he says. Even memories need company. You nod. You turn toward the desert. He fades behind you like smoke. You walk. The scroll under your arm. The shoe in your hand. You're back to Nishapur. Your heart full of things you didn't expect to carry. You don't look back. Because the city doesn't ask for that. It only asks this. Say our names. Tell our story. Loudly. Gently. Always. And you will. Because you are not leaving empty. You are leaving with a fire in your bones and ashes in your hands. And the world will never again be quiet enough to forget. Much. You keep walking. The sand is soft beneath your feet now, not loose, but packed down by time and memory, and the weight of countless travelers who came before you. There are no more buildings, no more ashes, just wind and open space. But you don't feel lost, because even as Nishapur fades behind you, it follows, in the rhythm of your steps, in the scroll against your ribs, in the way your shadow seems to carry more than just your shape. You are a story now, and stories don't vanish, they echo. You crest a hill, and below you another city, not ruined, not burning, living. Faint lights glow. Voices drift upward. Faint laughter, a street vendor shouting, a dog barking once and then again. The kind of city that has no idea what lies buried in the sand just over the hill. You watch it for a moment, and you feel something strange. A kind of guilt, because they don't know. They don't know what was lost. What was erased. What you saw. You could keep walking. Enter that city. Buy bread. Rent a room. Sleep in clean sheets. Forget. But you know you won't. Because the weight in your hands, the scroll, the shoe, it's not just symbolic. It's demanding. You walk down the hill, slowly. Each step is a question. How do I share this? What will they believe? What if they laugh? What if they turn away? And worst of all, what if I forget? At the base of the hill, you find a small shrine. Nothing grand. Just a circle of stones, a clay pot, a few wilted herbs. Offerings from travelers. For luck, for safe passage. You kneel and place the shukat inside the circle. Not because it belongs to the gods, but because it belonged to someone. And someone should remember that. You touch the clay pot. It's cracked, but still holding water. Like you. You enter the city. It smells of cinnamon and oil, of sweat and fresh bread, of life. People pass you in the street. No one looks twice. To them, you're just a dusty traveler, which, to be fair, you are. But you carry a ruin behind your eyes, and it's growing louder. Boy, at the market square, a scribe sits with an empty scroll. You stop. You sit. You pull out your next scroll. He glances at it, raises an eyebrow. Old work, he asks. You nod. Very. He gestures to your seat. You want to add to it. You pause. Look at the ink-stained parchment before him, then back at your own. You hesitate, then shake your head. No, I want to speak. And you do. You begin quietly, uncertain, but the words come, not polished, not perfect, but D. You speak of Nishapur, of the ash and the silence, of the boy with the scrolls, of the well and the single blue bead, of the candle that never went out, of the names, so many names, of the wall that asked you to carry them. You speak, and the scribe listens, and then slowly he begins to write, not your words exactly, but the echo of your story. A crowd forms, not large, but enough. Faces lean in, some frown, some nod, some weep silently, and you realize, you are not the first to speak of ruins, and you will not be the last. Hours pass, your throat aches. The scroll is lighter now. Your hands shake. Your heart is raw, but something else rises beneath all that. Something warm, because now the memory doesn't belong only to you. It belongs to them too, and they will carry it forward in their own way, in new stories, in quiet moments, in dreams. The scribe finishes the last line, blows gently on the ink. He looks at you and says, "It's not perfect." You smile. Neither was the city. He nods. But now it's here, and you know what he means, because Nishapur burned, but it also survived. In you, in the bird, in every word now drifting through this new city, like embers refusing to die. You stand. The sun is rising, finally clear, finally soft. You feel tired, but not the kind that asks for sleep. The kind that says, you've done what was needed. You walk through the square one last time, past the children chasing birds, past the vendors calling prices, past a girl who hums a tune that sounds oddly like the one the man in Nishapur once sang. And then you breathe, deep, full, free. So now, dear listener, let your breath slow. You've come far through ash and silence, across burned pages and whispered names. You've stood in a city that should have vanished, but didn't, because of memory, because of witness, because of you. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let your mind uncoil like a scroll finally laid flat. You've carried a ruin, and somehow you made it sing. That's no small thing. Not everyone is brave enough to listen to the stories the world wants to forget. Not everyone stays long enough to see the candles that still burn in broken temples. But you did. And now, as your room quiets, as the air cools, as the last image of that red scarf fades behind your eyes, know this: you are not just the listener. You are the lantern. And somewhere in some forgotten city, a name has just been remembered, because you let it in. Sleep well, keeper of stories. You've earned your rest. Sweet dreams.